you have to have gracefulness about it. And then the two of you share in that. You're the receiver of the gift and they're the giver of the gift. And so it's just a moment for human compassion.
All right, welcome back to the Spero Means Hope podcast, where we take storytelling to a whole new level by sharing amazing patient stories, interview experts in the community, and share resources for clinicians and students. So today we have with us Bill. How are you doing, Bill?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Hi.
Hi, pleasure to meet you and to have this conversation with you today. And so, Bill, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from, and what do you do for fun?
Sure, sure. Bill Corrigan. I'm 64-year-old who I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, but I consider Seattle, Washington my home. I lived there more than half my life. Um, my career, I was an instructional designer. So that's someone who works with faculty or trainers and helps them get their materials ready to present to learners. I really enjoyed that. I was diagnosed with ALS a couple of years ago, Groundhog's Day, 2/2/22. And then I continued to work for a little bit after that, but as the disease progressed, it just made sense for me to focus on my own health and well-being, and I was in a good position to retire. What I like to do for fun is essentially kind of continuing the things that I did before. So I was on a pursuit of completing the 6 world marathons that make up the 6 star. And I had done 3 of them before ALS. And I managed to complete the London Marathon in my wheelchair about 9 months after my diagnosis. And that was only 2 weeks into having the chair. So I'm still trying to do marathons. I've done 4 marathons since I've been diagnosed. I have the Boston Marathon coming up a couple of months from today.
That's
And,
awesome.
and I'm looking forward to being able to do that. The disease is progressing, and I have no plan B. I'm just going to get to the start line. I'm going to train. I'm going to get to the start line, and then we'll just let everything go from there.
Bill, I love that. So you said you've done four so far. So London, and then which other three
Oh,
cities?
so I've done 18 marathons. Of the
Wow.
world marathon majors that I've completed, New York, Chicago, Berlin, and London. I earned a qualification to start the Boston Marathon before my diagnosis, and the disease got to me. So I've started the Boston Marathon already in March of or April of 22. But I was only able to walk about 4 miles. But I earned that place on the starting line, so I went there. This time around, I'm
Congratulations.
fundraising for the Muscular Dystrophy Association to have an entry there, and I will do it in what's called a hand cycle.
Bill, that's amazing. Like, that's amazing. Did you always have like a passion for competing in marathon? Like, how old were you when you did your
Yeah,
first
that's
one?
that's a great story. So I got into marathoning in my mid 40s. It started out with as I was getting up there in age, and my cholesterol level was getting higher. So I was looking for natural ways to kind of control my cholesterol. So the big things are diet and exercise. Now, I was a swimmer and a biker, but I thought, well, I used to like running when I was a kid. Why don't I try that? So I did some running with a friend, and first of all, we did some 5Ks, which is 3 miles, then 10Ks, which is 6 miles. Then we did a half marathon, and I finished it, and I thought, I could keep going. So I kind of got the bug in me, and I get a challenge, and I think I can accomplish this. A year later, after doing my second or third half marathon, I completed my first marathon. And I said to my wife when I was done, why did I do that? Like 2 weeks later, there I was plotting and planning to do another one. And so I got on the journey to do them. So as I've said, I've completed 16 or 18. I'm not sure the exact number.
That's absolutely amazing. And the fact that like it was like just a pursuit of like health that led you to even like running is awesome. I love that. And so
Yeah.
you said that prior to diagnosis, you were an instructional designer. Okay,
Yes.
so how
Yeah.
did you get into that field?
Um, in college, my major was television production, but I had a great job where I worked in the College of Pharmacy here at the University of Texas, Austin, had a local network between Austin and San Antonio. And I got a work study job as a camera operator there. And I just really enjoyed the interaction with the faculty members. I left here and I moved to Seattle out to the West Coast. And one of the first jobs I got was at the University of Washington. And the part about the job that I loved the most was helping the faculty use the technology. So I then got a master's degree in instructional design
Wow.
and focusing on the learning aspect of it. Yeah.
That's pretty neat. Pretty neat profession. For those not familiar with ALS, do you want to talk a little bit about the condition and how it's affected you so far?
Yes. Yeah. So ALS is a neuromuscular disease. It mainly starts in your head with your motor neurons, but what the result of what happens is your motor neurons start losing the ability to communicate through your body to the muscle cells, and the muscles don't get the signal to take in energy. So, since they don't get that signal, they wither and eventually die. So, the disease progresses very differently for everyone. I'm probably considered a slow progression, uh, but it's everyone eventually, all of your sort of voluntary muscles stop working. When my first signs that I noticed is that I was tripping a lot while running. And then I noticed that the more I trained, I was still getting slower. So I started with thinking that the drop foot was caused by something in my spine. So I started with a neurosurgeon and we did MRIs and everything was right there. So then we went over to a neurologist and um, they do a battery of tests. ALS, what they do is they eliminate everything else, and then you come to the diagnosis of ALS. And so I was pretty good. My wife and my best friend were really supportive of me in the process and keeping me on top of it. I got my diagnosis within about 4 months. Some
Oh,
people it could take years.
yes,
So
yeah.
that's very good to get a diagnosis very fast because then you can start treating it and start to make sure you have a really good quality of life.
Yeah. That's it's awesome that you had such a good like I guess medical system that you were able to get diagnosed so fast. Yeah. Can you
Yeah.
share what have been some of the biggest obstacle in your journey thus far?
Yes. So I'd say probably the biggest struggle is you don't know what you've lost until you've lost it. It's really hard. It happens kind of slow. So you really have to stay on top of what's going on and what you need. So in the early stages, for me, that was going to physical therapy, keeping my general health up and ability to walk, and using occupational therapy to learn things like how to work with walking sticks. Okay. And then as it got to be apparent that I wasn't going to be able to walk much longer, first of all, I got a manual wheelchair with a power assist to it. And then, as I can tell that that was not going to be enough for me, I got a power wheelchair. And so it's just trying to anticipate what you're going to need and get it before you need it so you can kind of learn how to use it as well. Yeah. So that's the biggest thing. But you know what? I don't focus on the problems as much. I tend to focus more on what can I do today and how am I going to go out and do that. I say ALS is adaptive lifestyle. That's my phrase for it. So it's like,
I like
what do I need
that.
to do so I can have a great day and do the kind of things that I want to do?
I like that mindset. That's an adaptive lifestyle. I'm gonna keep that in mind. And then the next person I meet with ALS, like I will tell him, like, hey, adaptive
Yeah,
lifestyle.
yeah.
Do you think it was hard to have that mindset switch to where you kind of like focus on the positive? Did you have a period where it was kind of like hard to accept and come to terms with the condition?
Yeah. So I kind of think so ALS sucks and it's horrible, but there have been some gifts. Um, some of the gifts, one of the gifts would be um, the ability to ask for help and have the gracefulness to accept it and to understand that people like to help and they feel good helping. So when you ask someone to help you, in some ways, it's a gift to them and to not focus on how it might be a an aspect of yourself that you're losing, but rather you're participating with someone and you're giving them the gift of where they can have charity to you. So that's something that I learned. Um, and just I was a very independent person. So learning to ask for help was a good thing for me to do, to learn. Um, and then another thing is the community. Those of us who are caregivers or people living with ALS, we will say that ALS is the best club that no one ever wants to join, and that's because you meet lots of really great people, who are they're in this to the fight. We're ALS. It's just a disease where we have not figured out yet how to stop it. And that's what we just got to keep working at. Like there is a cure for ALS. We just haven't found it yet. So it's a community of people who are dedicated to that. And so I find so much inspiration from other people living with ALS and other caregivers and the scientists in the community as well. So just embracing the community has been something that has been very good and positive to me that I've learned.
Embracing the community. I want to go back to something you just said that I found what I thought was very profound. You said you're giving someone the gift of offering charity to you. Like I thought that was so profound. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. So when I get this still, it's like when I can't do something, and if I struggle to do something, I'm going to use a lot of energy that maybe I can preserve that energy for later in the day for something else. Um, but if I ask someone to help me, sometimes it's like, it's such a mundane thing, say picking something up off the floor, where an able bodied person, it's nothing. They don't have to think about it. For me, I have to be concerned that I don't fall down on the floor and hurt myself. And how would I get up? So, that's the part of it. It's like, I don't want to ask, but if I get over that, if I bridge that, one of the ways that I can bridge that is to understand, because I'd still do it myself. I help people out, and I know how good I feel by helping people out. And I just come to learn that if I allow someone to help me, it's a gift to them for them to be able to help me. That makes them feel good about themselves. So it's another way that I can contribute. It, and so just kind of learning that there's, you have to have gracefulness about it. And then the two of you share in that. You're the receiver of the gift and they're the giver of the gift. And so it's just a moment for human compassion.
Oh, I love that so much. So it's interesting because a couple of weeks ago, I was reading about the science of gratitude. And so they were in the article, they were talking about how when we think about a practice of gratitude, we think about sitting down and thinking about, like, what am I most grateful for? But the science behind gratitude shows that you get the most benefits when someone basically expresses their gratitude to you rather than like you like consciously thinking about what you're grateful for. And so I
Mm.
find that so interesting because essentially what you're saying, I think it's like you're making such a profound impact in someone else because you're like allowing them like the opportunity to help you, and then in return they get the benefits of that gratitude. It's so deep. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So it actually was something that I learned as I was a marathon runner, and I had a trainer, a coach, and a team that I worked with, and so we would have coaching sessions, and from that I did learn um, expressing gratitude. It helps you so much in your daily life. So I learned that, like, I'm out there, and I would just say to a volunteer, I really appreciate that you took your time out of your day on this cold day to come here and help me and help all these other runners participate in this event. It makes me feel so good because we're all going to have a nice, successful, enjoyable time. And just saying that, you can just feel the calmness rush through your
Yes.
body, and that just helps to prepare you. So I've tried then to take that lesson to other aspects of my life and use it, especially with my wife, who's my primary caregiver. And
Aww.
this is really horrible for someone. Imagine that you're close to retirement and you've been married for decades, and you're planning the rest of your life, and then ALS comes in there, and it just changes your plans completely, and it changes your relationship.
Hmm.
And so my wife, is Lucia, has stepped up to the task, and she's such a wonderful, loving person for me. And I am learning to express more and more my gratitude to her for how she helps me.
Oh, how sweet. That's so very sweet. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you and your wife met and how long you guys
Oh,
have been
yeah.
married?
We have a great story. Our origin story is wonderful. We met on a bus in Seattle, Washington. It was not my normal bus that I took home, but I was tired of the bus that I took home. So this other bus was coming by, and I said, I think that goes by my house. And I got on it, and it was packed, and I was in the seat. And this beautiful woman gets on the bus. I noticed her, and I go back to my reading. The seat next to me comes up, and she sits down. So we start having a conversation, and it's really nice. And then my bus stop comes, and I get up and I'd say, well, it's nice to talk to you. And I get off the bus. And I look back and I go, I never asked your name or anything like that. And then I was telling my friends at work, it's like, I got to ride that bus some more. It took several more weeks, and then I get on the bus one time and it's empty, and I'm all the way in the back. And she gets on and she's at the front. And I go, there she is. What do I do? And
Aww.
kids were getting off. So I followed up behind them, and I started and I sat down next to her, and we're talking. We just picked up the conversation from where it was before. And in my mind, I'm saying, I'm not getting off until she does. And that was just one more stop. And, so we both got off together. And I said, well, this is nice. We should, have dinner sometime. She said, that'd be wonderful. Here's my number. And then we went on a date like within a week, and the rest is history. That was 22 years ago.
Wow. Oh, so sweet. And you say her name is Lucy?
Lucia. Yeah.
Lucia.
Italian.
Lucia.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That is such a precious story. I'm I'm so glad you got on that bus that one day. That's amazing.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then earlier you mentioned like the power of community. Do you want to share like maybe some resources, like I guess local to Austin, or like where do you find community near you?
Yes, yeah. The local ALS chapter of the ALS Association has been very helpful. They have, we don't do in person meetings right now, but we have. And they have, so we have monthly meetings where we can get together and talk. They have a loaner program, which is great because um, there's so many different things that you might need, and it can become very expensive very quickly, and not everything is covered by medical insurance. So they have a program where they will loan you, and I say loan you equipment because they provide it to you and you don't need to give it back to them right away until you're not using it, of course. And then another group that I found to be very helpful is called Team Gleason out of New Orleans. Steve Gleason was a professional football player who, after his career, he developed ALS, and he started a foundation where he is focused on compassionate care to people living with ALS, and they support. They provide power wheelchairs. They provide adventures that one might go on. They have community gatherings as well, and they focus on how to have a high quality of life. And then I've really been geeking out on the science of it, and an organization in Boston that I love a lot. They're called the ALS Therapy Development Institute. And they were started in the 90s by a person living with ALS and their family members who started a nonprofit science institute, and they do drug discovery. So their total mission is to find drugs that will help cure ALS. So they don't do the clinical trials, but they do a lot of the work up before that. And they have some studies where they collect data about people living with ALS and provide that back to the scientific community so people can use it to find things that might, a thing that we really need to find pretty quickly is a biomarker that might help identify if you have ALS, because the best thing for having high quality of life with ALS is to start treating it as soon as possible that you get it. The drugs and the therapies are much more effective if you start them very early on in the degenerative process. So that organization, ALS Therapy Development Institute, is just I love them. I think they're really great.
Wow. Those are great resources. Like I'll make sure I like note all of them down and put them in the show notes. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Earlier when I asked you about your biggest challenges, you mentioned like focusing your mindset on like kind of like what you're looking forward to. So what are some things that you're looking forward to? You mentioned you're doing another marathon. Any other
Yes.
like things that you're kind of like looking ahead and looking forward to?
Yeah. Yeah. So early on in this, when the part in the early phase, I was bummed. You get this, sentence, you get this diagnosis that says, you know, you probably know how you're going to die now. And so that bums you out. And then I was kind of like, you can get hit by a bus. So really, what's changed?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you got to just keep on going on with your life. And so I started learning about what was going on and different people who lived with it. Some people write a book. Well, I didn't want to do that. Some people started charity. I'm like, wow, I raise money because I think that's important, but I didn't want to start a charity. The thing that I got most excited about was the science. And so I've been reading all of the scientific papers, like I said before, geeking out. And I've decided that when I'm kind of done with this marathon phase, which is coming up pretty soon. Maybe I'll go back to community college, and maybe I was a communication major. I didn't study a lot of science, so I'll have to start at the bottom and go through chemistry and biology, and maybe I can learn about that. Maybe in some small way I can contribute back through that point of view. But so that's my next goal, will be going back to community college and going from there.
Bill, that is such an amazing goal. It's definitely not what I thought you were gonna answer. Like, the last thing I thought was like, I'm going to go back to school. It's like, while you're in school, you can't wait to get out. And so, like that love and that thirst for knowledge that you have is awesome. It's
Yeah.
so awesome and precious. Mm. When
Now,
is your
we
marathon?
really need to
Go
make
ahead.
sure that we talk about physical therapy and occupational therapy.
Yes, yes. How has your journey been so far with PT and OT?
Incredible. Very, very good. Um, um, with physical therapy, as the disease progresses, my goals have changed. Um, Early on, I still had a lot of development that I could do with my physical body to keep doing what I wanted to do. As the disease progresses, I've had to shift that more to staying, uh, what's the right word to say it? Having range of motion, so keeping flexibility and preserving what I do have and not overtaxing it. Occupational therapy, then, is a little bit of a different focus. It's more like, what are the skills that I need to do to live my life comfortably and to achieve the goals that I want to do? So that's such things as learning how to transfer from one wheelchair to another. If I do fall, how can I get up safely and do that? How can I keep my fingers agile so that I can continue to write and type and eat and things like that? So they have two different focuses. I do both of them every week, and as things change, it's a dialogue that you have with your physical therapist and your occupational therapist, and you have to tell them what's going on with you, and you have to ask questions. Yesterday, I was given a new movement in physical therapy, and as I was doing it, I said, "Where am I supposed to be feeling this?" And they said, "Oh, you're supposed to be feeling this right now on your left side." And I said, "Well, I'm feeling it in my right arm." And they said, "Okay, we need to make an adjustment." And then it's like, "Oh, okay, now I am feeling it over there." And so you always got to have this kind of dialogue with your therapist to get the most out of it.
And that communication, yes. How did you find Spiro?
Oh, that's a great question. I My neurologist, we had some conversations in the early stages of the diagnosis, and he found out that I was an athlete. So he referred me to, um, they're called a DO. It's a doctor of, it's not,
Osteopathic medicine.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, there you go. So Hasselhorst, Dr. Hasselhorst, here in the Austin, Texas area. And she was wonderful. And she helped me understand what I needed to do to keep doing my athletic endeavors. And she hooked me up with Spero. She said, those folks are great for working with neurodegenerative diseases. And then she also hooked me up with the Lance, the para athletes of Austin. I think it's Lance Para. I'm getting the name mixed up. I'm so sorry.
LSPF, like Lone Star Paralysis
Lone
Foundation.
Star. Thank you.
Yes,
Lone
yes, yes.
Star. Lone Star Paralysis, and they've been great for activities. And then she also hooked
Awesome.
me up with Texas Regional Parasports, and I had a coach there that's helped me with athletic events and marathoning. So yeah, but that's how. Yeah, she was a great doctor and introduced me to Spiro.
Awesome. That's great connections and like lots and lots of like things in Austin. I love it. BL, is there like someone you also mentioned your like wife Lucia, but is there anybody else you wanna like give a shout out to for how like instrumental they've been in your journey?
Yes, I'll mention a couple of people. The first would be Andrea Little Pete, who was also a marathoner, and she was a triathlete who after she received her diagnosis, she said, I'm not dying, I'm living. And I'm just going to keep doing the things that I wanted to do. So she set up a goal to do 50 marathons in 50 states post diagnosis. So when I got my diagnosis in February, and I realized that I was going to do the London Marathon that September. So 7 months away. And it's like, I'm not going to be able to run that. I'm going to have to do that in a wheelchair. And I was looking out for different people. And in May of 22, I read this article in the New York Times. She was just finishing this journey. And I said, oh my gosh, here's someone doing what I want to do. And the same thing I was. So I reached out to her. We've communicated, and she's written a book, and she made a documentary. She's just very inspiring. The name of her documentary is called Go On, Be Brave. And that's advice we all can use. Whenever you think you've got something to do, reach out of yourself a little bit. Find the bravery in you and reach out. You can do it. So she's wonderful. Then the other person I want to mention, her name is Brooke Elby, and she's on social media as, don't know why she chose this name, Limp Bruise Kit. It's kind of the band Limp Bizkit. It's kind of like a funny thing on that. Well, so she's been diagnosed a couple of years and living with ALS, a young woman, in her early 30s, getting this diagnosis. And she's just having a great time and fun telling people. She's so open. You even ask her, she might say, she shares too much, but she doesn't care. And she does. So I encourage everybody to follow her on social media. She's just amazing. Her vivaciousness and her personality and her warmth. And she shares a lot about what's going on with ALS. So Limp Bruskit.
Limp Bruskit. I think I actually follow her.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of people do.
Yes, love her openness.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Any other shout out you'd like to give?
Sammy Vergas, my PT at Spero. She's just been very wonderful. This is the weekend that the Austin Marathon runs as we're recording this session. And a year ago, she was running her first marathon, and we had been working together only about a month. And the Austin Marathon runs very close to my house. And I said, I'll be there at mile 19 to support you. And I was there, and she came by, and she's just got a great attitude. Everybody at Spero does. All the folks at Spero have a wonderful attitude, and I just love the way they're there to help people, and they all seem to really enjoy it. So Sammy Vergas and the rest of the team at Spero Central.
Oh, that's awesome. And Sammy is a sunshine, so awesome. Bill, is there anything I haven't asked you about that you want to mention?
I don't think so. I think we got to talk about the PT. I wanted to make sure that we did.
Yes, it's very important. Very important.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I just wanted to thank you again, like for taking the time to share your story with me and for like all of the encouraging words. And I'm really excited to like put this together and share this. And so thank you so much, Bill.
Certainly, Mercy. I'm so glad that we had this conversation, and I wish you and the rest of your audience a wonderful, merry day. Go on, get out there and do it.